Oh, yeah, man. You know how we roll. We got to have our music up in here. This is kind of ridiculous because I've been waiting for about 45 minutes for the YouTube checks to go through. And so while I'm sitting here, we're going to do a two for tonight. And this is going to be deemed that it's a haterade type video, but I've got some bad news for the Washington football team. And we'll go ahead and kill the music here. So I've got more Washington fans that are coming around to the channel, kind of pounding their chest a little. Not too much. They're not braggadocious like Eagle fans. Eagle fans are still talking smack, even though they're ass. But I've got that are feeling themselves. And, you know, the talking heads out there are feeling the Washington football team too. But the thing that's always surprises me is how it seems like things that normally happen, the normal trends, are always forgotten by the talking things. You know, just like they say generational talent, they throw that around and stuff with players that end up being bust. And what they don't seem to remember is that half of the teams that made the playoffs this year, odds are they won't make it the following year. And here's the problem for the NFC East. I decided to go through and do some work. Teams after they win the division in the NFC East. This isn't like any other division. Now, you know, New England had a lock on winning their division every year, except when they got rid of Tom Brady and the pandemic changed that. But the NFC East, since the Eagles won in 2003 and 2004 back to back, nobody has repeated as division champ. Now, before I go into the numbers behind this, I actually want to go through here from Get Up, because the final clip here from Ryan Clark is pertinent to our conversation. Let's go to the tape.
Some of its teams. Ryan Clark, what's the biggest question in Dallas?
The biggest question in Dallas is, can we fix this defense? Can we figure out if it was Mike Nolan, and can Dan Quinn change things? Can Michael Parsons, can adding Kelvin Joseph to the outside, can all these different moves, Keanu Neal, make this defense better? Oh, and will we be able to block? I feel like Dallas has the most questions, but if they're answered, they could be the best.
All right, so that's a low ceiling, high ceiling, low floor. Mike T, how about the Giants?
The offensive line, Green, starting at left tackle. Andrew Thomas was drafted before Mekhi Becton of the Jets. He was very inconsistent last year. Nate Solder's coming back. Is he going to be the right tackle, or is it Matt Pert, third-round pick out of UConn, who only started one game last year? Those bookends have big question marks on either side.
Almost always feels like the Giants' big questions are about their offensive line. Jeff Darlington, how about Washington? What's the biggest question?
Well, Washington has a lot to offer right now. The secondary, though, is still a bit of a question, and not something that can't be solved during training camp. They did pick up some really solid free agent acquisitions, but the free safety positions, that is a big question. So it could all get sorted out. Maybe they've got the guys on the roster, but certainly something we should be watching.
All right, so let's see what Vegas thinks. Caesars Sportsbook by William Hill sees it as a tight race.
Wow.
Nobody has longer odds than 5-1 to win the division, but as you see, the Cowboys right now are the favorites with Washington right behind them. And RC, I want to pick up on the thought that you had, because I think it's a good one. The Cowboys have a lot of questions. They also seem to have a lot of potential. If all the answers come back yes, then the Cowboys could be really good. I would agree with that. But how would you assess the likelihood that that is what winds up?
You know what's crazy is I think it's highly likely. Listen, coming into last year, and when teams, or when we were having these conversations in the offseason, and many of us were talking Super Bowl, I was one that wasn't. I said, okay, let's pump the brakes on the Cowboys a little bit. Let's see what happens going forward. But I like what they've done defensively. When you think about Dan Quinn and the success he's had as a defensive coach, not as a head coach in what his defense was, but as a defensive coach, I believe his imprint will be on this team. Michael Parsons is a star. Giving Dak the $40 million contract, you give Dak that $40 million contract and empower him. La'el Collins should be healthy. They should be healthier on the offensive line, and Ezekiel Elliott has something to prove. Is it the biggest variance between floor and ceiling? Absolutely. I believe they'll be closer to the ceiling, and by that fact, compete in the playoffs.
All right, and so Mike T, as you look at that division right now, if you had to bet your palatial estate in Boca Raton, which team do you like in the NFC East in this coming season? Let's put them up there. Go ahead, Mike T. Who you got?
In tax-free Florida, I'm taking Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, and here's why. If we were drafting just from the players in the NFC East, we're taking Dak Prescott and then draw a line, Greeny. I don't even know who the second best player is.
What?
Maybe it's Chase Young, but Dak Prescott is so much better as a football player than anybody else in that division.
Wow.
I agree with RC about defense and Dan Quinn, but this is about the quarterback, and they have a great one in Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all, honestly. I grant you, based upon the significance of the position, that he's the best player in the division. Chase Young is closer to being the best edge rusher in the sport than Dak is to being the best quarterback. Jeff Darlington, go. Who you got in the division?
Look, I'm going to say Washington. Ryan just did a really good job, though, selling me on the Cowboys. I feel like this could be finally in a division that is just always overhyped. I feel like this is going to be a fun race toward the end between Washington and the Cowboys, because I'm with him on the Dak Prescott angle. Like, that just elevates this team to a level, the empowerment of the contract, the whole deal. Like, I like what Ryan's saying there. I'll stick with Washington because I don't want to mess up the producers there with the graphic and whatnot. But I like what Ryan.
Mess up the producers.
Well,
Mess them up.
I'll take that and I'll raise it. I think Washington is one of the elite teams in the NFC. I genuinely do. RC, I think they're being sold short. That defense is great. It's not good, and it's getting better. And they've added some pieces on the offense. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, if he is not a superstar, which he is obviously not, I think can be at least an average quarterback. They had the worst quarterback play in the NFL last year, 32nd out of 32 teams by QBR. Yes, if they're just decent at that position, I think they're an excellent team.
Greeny, I understand that, but no one in the world in the last decade and a half has ever said that they are Ryan Fitzpatrick away from being a Super Bowl. I love Fitzmagic. I enjoy to watch it, but that's just not a thing. There'll be a good team. They'll be very good defensively. They've also added some pieces offensively, but to me, the Dallas Cowboys are the cream of the crop in the NFC East.
All right, this is a
Okay. Nobody has said that they're a Ryan Fitzpatrick way. Wow, that's kind of cold. That was kind of cold. But here's the thing, Washington. What I hate to tell you is, repeating as division champs, there's so many reasons why. When you do good, of course, your team gets popular. People look for your free agents. Players want to get paid. Coaches go elsewhere and so on. You didn't have so much of that. But, still, it's hard to repeat with the other issue, which is a tougher schedule. You got to remember, you had an easier schedule. This year, you've got a slightly harder one than the rest of the team because you've not only got to play Tampa Bay as well as Kansas City like the rest of us, but you've also got other division leaders. You got Seattle, you got Green Bay, you've got Buffalo in the mix. So with that, along with now having a target on your back, teams just do not repeat in the NFC. Now, let me tell you how bad it's been. The last time we had back-to-back division winners was the Eagles in 2003, 2004. The following year, the Eagles ended up being 6-10, 7 games below. The next year, the Giants won the division at 11-5, dropped 3 games the following year. The Eagles won at 10-6 the next year, dropped 2 games less wins than the following year. My Cowboys, 2007, they won the division. Next year, 4 games less. New York Giants, again, the next year. The following year after that, they dropped 4 games. Cowboys, 2009, 11-5 season, dropped 5 games. Eagles, 10-6 in 2010, end up 8-8 the following year. The only year that a team did not have less victories was the 2011 season, where the Giants won the division at 9-7 and took second the following year at 9-7. But the last time, Washington, 2012, 10-6, brutally 7 games less the next year. Ouch. Cowboys 2014, the following year, 8 games less. Washington, 9-7, the following year, 8-8. Or actually 8-7-1. 2016, Dallas, 4 games less. Eagles the next year, 4 games less. Dallas the next year, 2 games less. Eagles 5 games less. If you do the math on this for an average, wait for this, Washington fans. Division winners in the NFC East the following year on average are 4.1 games less in the win. 4.1. Yeah. Over the last 16 seasons. That doesn't bode well for you guys. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm not trying to put haterade. I'm putting in the realistic numbers right here of what it looks like. It's just not a pretty thing trying to repeat in the NFCs. And that goes by, let me point out too, that includes the Eagles winning the Super Bowl in 2017. They didn't repeat as division champions. And the Giants twice during that time winning the Super Bowl and not coming back. So Washington, congratulations on winning the division, but it's going to be a tough road to repeat. So as always, go ahead, give me your hate mail. I'm Mark Holmes in.
Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah, I'll see you guys